Monty, we don't even have like some boring music to listen to before the meeting starts.
I can start coming up with something if you want, you know.
Little song and dance.
What do you like?
What do you like?
I could have recorded the Thursday nights and just replayed them for us.
Oh,
That'd be good.
Yes.
That'd be good.
I'm gonna have to do it tonight, Sue. I now have glasses as well.
Very professional looking.
Thank you. I can't really see out of them, so I have to keep taking them off and figuring out how to wear them.
So do you want me to sing to you? You know, I can see clearly now, the glasses
This
are
is-
on.
Go on, Sue.
This is wrong.
I wish I could.
Keep humming.
Well, if you can't see out of them, they're not right.
Well, they're the progressives, and I can't figure out where the right spot is. So
These are trifocals, and it took about 3 adjustments to get the thing right, so that, you know, the distance thing is in the top, and the 12-inch thing is in the middle, and then the contract is in the bottom, but then things move. So they had to adjust it up and down. So I finally went to a fan pattern, and that seemed to help a lot. So now the distance is the top.
yeah,
The mid-range is the fan. So it's literally a fan. And then my contract is the sides of the fan. And that seemed to work well for me.
nice.
So it's not just delineated.
So you
Yeah,
got-
no, I have that progressive as well. The problem is the sides are messing me up.
Right.
well,
You'll get used to it. Welcome to your 40s.
All right. Ready to get started?
let's go.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Monday, October 4th City Council meeting. Monty will be our clerk this evening. So Monty, can you please call the roll?
Alderman Santee,
Here.
Alderman Glab,
Here.
Alderman McClatchy,
Here.
Alderman Harding,
Here.
Alderman Strack,
Here,
Alderman Devine,
Here.
Alderwoman Miller,
Here.
Mayor Jett.
Here, please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
States of America.
to the
and to the
republic
republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
Indivisible,
liberty.
with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started on public comment. Anyone from the public comment that would like to make a public comment at this time, please unmute yourself. You're going to be limited to 3 minutes. So at this point, looking for any public comment. See none. Moving on to consent agenda 5A through 5H. Any items that council would like to pull for separate consideration? Alderman Glad?
Like to pull A, please.
Okay, any others? All right, I'm looking for approval, looking for a motion and a second for 5B through 5H to approve. Alderman Santee,
I will make the motion to approve agenda items 5B through 5H as presented.
thank you. Alderman Strack,
second,
thank you. Discussion on these items? Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Santee,
Yes.
Alderman Strack,
yes,
Alderman Glab,
Yes.
McClatchy,
Yes.
Alderman Harding,
Yes.
Alderman Devine,
Yes,
Alderwoman Miller.
Yes.
Thank you. The item that was pulled by Alderman Glad was 5A is a resolution requesting legislative assistance to increase the annual distribution of township road district tax levies that is returned to Illinois municipalities and to authorize staff to distribute the resolution to the city of McHenry State's representatives. Alderman Glab, go ahead.
Yeah, you know, we're talking about $50,000, probably max here, with this resolution that we're complaining that we've been shortchanged over the years. I honestly feel that with the money that is collected in the road funds, that it should all come back to the city of McHenry, and I think that's where we should start. You don't want to start negotiations at the bottom and then try to work your way up. We should be going through everything. I mean, you realize, and again, I haven't taken and computed, but 2 years ago, I had gotten the statistics, and we were paying well over $1.8 million from the residents in the city of McHenry, yet only getting $360,000 back. That's $1.5 million that we're just throwing away to the townships. Now, granted, you could say that, well, you know, we use the township roads, but how many township roads do we use, and how many people from the township use our roads? Yeah, they use the state highways, but they also use Crystal Lake Road, especially now with the school, with the inundation of all that traffic. Are we paying as residents for the subdivision roads in the township? And then you take a look at some of these areas and the roads look gleaming, and then you look at ours and you look at how we're suffering and fighting to get good roads in the city of McHenry, and $1.5 million a year would make a big difference. I think we need to go and ask our legislature more so for the ability to have our own road district rather than paying into the township road district. I think that needs to be looked at, and rather than trying to look at recouping 40 to 50,000 to start, why don't we go after the $1.5 million we're looking at and then work our way down? I think we need to be able to control our destiny on streets and roads more so financially than what the township's doing for us. I mean, look at the last group where they reduced the appropriations by 30%, which means we will be getting back 30% less on our road bridge tax funds from the McHenry Township, which means we have no control over that. And that isn't the way we should be. I mean, if we're a municipality and our government runs separately, we need to have separate funding and not be funding the townships. And I think that's a good point that we need to look at. When a municipality is at a certain height as far as how many miles of roads that we have, that we should be able to have our own road district. And that's the type of state statute I think we need to look at. If we send something like this, and then we discuss greater returns than just the $30,000 or $40,000 we're looking at, it kind of isn't as big of impact as you get started. We need to start at the top and work our way down. I mean, when we negotiate, when the unions come in and negotiate for our employees, they don't stop and say, oh, well, let's look at having Sundays off or paid Sundays and that's it. No, they have a whole list, and then everything is negotiated downwards. So let's start at the top instead of the bottom. I'd like to pull this, and I think we need to have more discussion on it down the road.
Alderman Glad, if I can clarify, so you made the statement before that you wanted all the funding that was collected from the levy, both from the road and bridge and permanent roads. So basically you wanted all the township road district levies collected within our corporate limits. If you look at the last line of the resolution, section 1, that is the specific request. So we are requesting that statutes be changed to have all of the collections within the corporate limits of McHenry given back to us. So the request you mentioned is the specific request that our resolution is requesting.
But Troy, if you take a look at all the other information, I mean, we're really not discussing, is there anything in here as far as how the township reduced the levy this year by 30%?
It's got the history, it's got the 10-year history of what they reduced their total levies to.
And I understand that, but do we have the last appropriations? Because that's a big issue. And that's what I had mentioned before, as far as the fact that we need to have total control of our funding for our roads, of the money that's being paid in by our residents. And I think it just, this resolution to me doesn't stress it strong enough, my opinion. But that's the way I look at it.
Any other council members have any comments, questions? Alderman McClatchy, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Troy, is this money that's taken in by the townships or the city, or both?
It's taken in, and Carolyn can probably clarify. I believe it's taken in by the townships, and then there is some sort of a transfer that occurs.
Okay.
But we get right now, as the statutes are written, whatever road and bridge levy is collected within the corporate limits of McHenry for both McHenry and Nunda Township, we get half of that road and bridge levy back.
Thank you.
The county actually collects it and distributes it back to us. It doesn't go to the township first.
See, there you go. That's why I asked Carolyn. She knew better than me.
Alderman Glab, go ahead.
Yeah, but the thing is for the alderman's edification is the fact that there is nothing specific, and correct me if I'm wrong, Troy, as far as how the townships have been able to manipulate and move the monies from what they collect for, in other words, they're limited by the PTEL, okay? But they can take, when they're limited by the PTEL, that's for the total road funds that they collect. And if they decide that they are going to collect more for the permanent roads and less for the road and bridge that they have to share, which is what Nunda's probably doing, then we lose money on that.
So that's exactly what Nunda's doing. That's exactly what we're protesting. And that's exactly what we're requesting to change.
But I think we need to stress the fact that municipalities need to be more in charge of the revenue that comes in from the residents of the city of McHenry. I mean, think about it. With all that money that's being put in by our residents, and our residents are crying for new roads, and yet we're taking not we as taxpayers are paying into a system to where all that is going into townships, where most of that money is being used in township subdivisions instead of city roads. And that's where the real crime comes in. It was a great formula years and years ago, but times have changed. Municipalities have grown, while naturally the responsibility of the townships have slowly dwindled, and that's why the state needs to look at this. Not the. I know we had our state senator at our public works meeting several months back, and he talked about alternatives such as bring a lot of people over to the annual meeting where they could make a motion to move more money into the city. Well, that'd be fine for 1 year, and then the following year, it's going to wind up where the township residents are going to stack the meeting, and it's just going to be back and forth. And that's only if we get the first year with enough people in there to change it. So, I mean, it has to be changed at state level, and I think. I know the municipalities around here have some of the same problems, and I'm sure they would jump in. You take a look, it would be interesting to know if we could get the information as far as what roads the township actually takes and is responsible for. You know, they brag about 120 some odd miles, almost 130 miles. However, how many of those miles are contracted with other municipalities that they actually do their plowing and everything? What is exactly township roads, and where does that money go? And I think that's something that we need to point out too, and use that as a levy as well, is the fact that our residents are paying for the residents in the township's roads.
Derek, go ahead.
Two things. Thank you, Mayor. First of all, on page 4 of the staff report, it says in the last paragraph, just point this out. The final draft was distributed to the entire council for the opportunity to provide comments on September 10th, and no further comments were received. Therefore, staff is presenting the final resolution to council for approval. So, I mean, this was sent to the council. No comments were received then, just to point that out. Secondly, I guess a question to Alderman Glab. I mean, is it that you want the resolution more blunt than it is? I mean, is it too wordy? You want it to be more blunt? I guess I don't understand what the outcome. I understand what you want. I mean, we want the same thing, but what outcome do you want from this discussion?
Well, I think more than anything else, I think we need to know and push rather than all these statistics and everything else. I mean, to have all this individually broken down, I would like to see more that we push the fact of different things that the townships have done, especially what Nunda did as far as reducing the amount of road and bridge, and how important it is. And maybe we need to know how much of that that money actually is being used for main roads that the township takes care of versus what, you know, their subdivision roads.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. I agree with that. I understand that we should get that clarification. I guess the issue is, like, what's the end game? Is the end game of the resolution to have changes made at the state level to make sure that we get more of the funding, or to point out all the things that the townships did to get that money? I mean, to me, it's more important to get the money, to have the changes made and moving forward to get the money. Thank you.
I also find a lot of times that I agree. We need to get the money, but we need to go for, you know, the dollar amounts that we're talking about. We need to figure out what our residents paid this year in property taxes to the roads and what we're getting back, or probably have to use the prior year because we wouldn't see how much we're getting back from the township yet. But we need to show that. And I just think we need to have more teeth. And, you know, it's easy to always complain about things, but it's better when you complain and you have a solution. And one of the solutions I think we should push is the fact that we should be in control of our own destiny as far as the municipality, to be able to have our own road taxing ability. I mean, I know we do as home rule, but rather than paying anything to the townships, maybe it should be going to municipalities.
So does any other council members agree with Alderman Glab? If you do, we can go ahead and go a different route, but no? Okay. For 5A, I'm looking for a motion and a second to approve 5A as presented. Alderman Miller?
So before I make that motion, I just want to make my comment that the purpose of the resolution is to get someone in Springfield to introduce appropriate legislation to get motions to change the statute. That's the whole purpose of the resolution. Once we get some traction to change the statute, then we can provide as much evidence or documentation as they need to demonstrate that what's going on isn't quite right or fair. So I agree with Andy that what they're doing isn't right, but until we get somebody who's willing to carry a bill to change the statute, we're dead in the water. So first and foremost, we need to approve the resolution. And then once the resolution gets traction, then we can provide evidence for Andy to say, here's why we need this. But right now, if nobody cares, we're dead in the water. So I think what staff has created certainly demonstrates there's a reason to look at the statute. And if somebody picks it up and it gets traction, then we can probably make a motion that we approve the resolution as presented by staff.
You're muted, Mayor.
Sorry, Alderman Strack for a second.
Second, please.
Thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and clerk, can you go ahead and make a roll call?
Alderwoman Miller,
Discussion wasn't over.
Yes.
All discussion was over a long time ago.
No, it wasn't.
Go ahead, Monty.
Sorry. All I'm asking the council is, more than anything else, is to change the wording to come up with the proposal so that we could create our own taxing district instead of the money going to the township. And if we added that in, I'd be 100% with it.
That would be under new business. It's not an agenda item. So you could bring that under new business. I don't think it would be in this resolution. That would be for us to create under a new business item. It has nothing to do with changing a state statute.
Well, again, it's unfortunate that I have to vote yes for this tonight, only because of the fact I don't agree with it totally, but it needs to go forward.
Thank you. Clerk, go ahead.
Alderwoman Miller,
Yes.
Alderman Strack,
Yes.
Alderman Devine,
Yes.
Alderman Harding,
Yes.
Alderman McClatchy,
You're muted.
You're muted,
Frank.
Frank.
Sorry about that. Yes.
Alderman Glab,
Yes.
Alderman Santee.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Next item on the agenda is 6A is a motion to approve an ordinance granting a conditional use permit and zoning variations to accommodate the operation of a transitional living shelter at 2116 North Ringwood Road. Director Pralareki, you want to go ahead and present this?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. As council may recall, we annexed Home of the Sparrow on Ringwood Road a few months back. This is kind of just cleaning up some things to make them, to give them their conditional use permit. So they are looking for a conditional use permit for an institutional use for the continued operation of a transitional living shelter and zoning variations, excuse me, to minimum lot width, parking lot perimeter landscaping, interior side yard setback for the existing playground structure. Now, any other zoning relief necessary to accommodate the existing principal building and structures. Planning and zoning heard this on September 15th, 2021, unanimously recommended approval with the following condition. The property owner shall be required to install parking lot perimeter landscaping as required by the zoning ordinance. Should the existing trees east of the southernmost parking lot be removed as determined by the zoning administrator, or if the vacant lots east of the south parking lot are developed. The petitioner is online if there are questions tonight, but looking for your approval on that.
Thank you, Ross. I'm going to ask for a motion and a second to approve. Item 6A. Alderman Santee.
I'll make the motion to approve item 6A as presented.
Thank you. Second. Alderman McClatchy.
Yes, I would second that.
Thank you. Open up for discussion by city council. Alderman Glenn.
Yeah, I just want to state the fact that Crystal Lake Road is already inundated in the mornings with the school and everything else. The chief and Troy have worked together with the schools as far as trying to take care of some of the traffic. The lights have been changed. You now sit on Royal a lot longer to get out because of the fact that we need to keep the traffic rolling on Crystal Lake Road. But you know what? It's getting worse all the time. And if we're going to start looking at multifamily that is going to dump out of the Crystal Lake Road, that's a very large concern of mine. I mean, it doesn't just affect my ward, it affects 2 others. And it's just like, wow. When do we have enough as far as residents that are going to be able to that we're gonna be able to sustain the traffic that we're creating in this town. And Mayor, your eyes look like a question, like, what's he talking about? And that's the fact that every time we approve multifamily, we wind up with how many cars and how many more on the streets. Now, are we going to be back to where we were 20 some odd years ago, to where we're trying to catch up, just like what we're doing with roads, trying to catch up? We talked about as far as condition of roads, but what about as far as the width of roads? What's going to happen to Crystal Lake Road when 31 goes under construction in a couple of years? When they start
I
widening.
don't know if you're on the, I don't think you're on the right item.
Alderman Glab, yeah, I'm kind of confused. We're talking about a
You're-
conditional use permit for Ringwood Road for the
I'm
homeless sparrow.
sorry, I'm one step.
I'm so confused. I don't know.
Okay, yes, I can see why there, Mayor. I wish you'd spoke up sooner before I.
Yeah, I was just trying to follow you. but-
Only put my foot in my mouth and not totally down my throat, you know? You had to wait until it was all the way down, right?
No. All right, so let's move back to 6A here. Is there any other council members that have any questions, comments regarding 6A? See none? Open up for public input. Is there anyone from the public that'd like to make a public comment regarding this item? If so, please unmute yourself. See none? Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Alderman Santee,
Yes.
Alderman McClatchy,
Yes.
Alderman Glab,
Yes.
Alderman Harding,
Yes.
Alderman Strack,
Yes.
Alderman Devine,
Yes.
Alderwoman Miller,
Yes.
All right, thank you, council. Next item on the agenda is discussion item. 7A is 812 North Mill Street, conceptual multifamily redevelopment presentation by North Point Development. Director Palarecki, you want to go ahead and start this off?
Sure. The petitioners are also online, obviously, because they're going to be given a presentation here. North Point Development is proposing to redevelop 812 North Mill Street. Involves the construction of a 46-unit apartment building, adaptive repurpose of the historic mill building, and the construction of a new 4-unit townhouse. The developer met with adjoining residents on Wednesday, September 22nd to seek feedback. The developer is presenting their conceptual plan to the council tonight to gain feedback on the proposed use of the property prior to their October 20th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, and then November 1st council meeting. So Jake Victor is online here tonight. Monty, we're gonna have to give Jake the rights so that he can go ahead and share his screen.
you should be able to now.
Okay, so Jake, I'm gonna turn it over to you and your group. Go ahead with your presentation.
Thanks, Ross. I'm going to try to share my screen here. It looks like it works. Awesome. Can everybody see the presentation here?
Yeah, we see it.
Perfect. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for taking some time to hear our proposal for North Mill Street and West Crystal Lake Road. About 3.3 acres. My name is Jake Victor, Vice President of Development at North Point Development. This evening, I am joined by our partner on this proposal, the Executive Director, Richard Koenig with Housing Opportunity Development Corporation. We look forward to a healthy discussion here, conversation, and I want to make it very clear early on that, we're still in the early stages here, and we want to hear feedback, gather insight, gather opinions here to how we can improve this plan and, make it stronger for the residents in the area and the city as a whole. Alderman, we heard a couple of remarks there about traffic, and happy to address those in the presentation and then also thereafter in the Q&A session. So this is Taylor Place Apartments, like I said, at the corner of North Mill Street and West Crystal Lake. We've made this very clear from the beginning of the process that we view this as an iterative process. We view this as a partnership, a collaboration between ourselves, our partner Housing Opportunity Development Corporation, the city, and the community members that will be affected by this development proposal. We understand that, recent multifamily in McHenry has had quite some controversy on the other side of the city. And that is why, in part, why we're taking this approach and, really gathering insight and opinions and feedback early on. So the site that we're talking about here today is one that we actually found in collaboration with the city, discussing, strong multifamily sites with Cody Ross and their team to really find opportunities that align with the city's long-term planning vision. We're talking about, a couple office spaces here, some historic buildings and some old warehouses. The city has had conversations about redeveloping this space here and the long-term potential of this land conglomeration here. So the first step that we took was, of course, working with the city to identify this site, meeting with city staff and the relevant alders, Vic Santi and Sue Miller, to discuss our proposal, gauge, initial interest, and then took that, proposal, made some tweaks, went to the community members to have a, conversation about what we're proposing on this site, how we could improve it, and, how we could, position it to be the strongest project possible for the community. So we're talking, like I said, about North Mill Street and West Crystal Lake Road. As you can see on the map here, it's, the several buildings here, the several warehouse buildings, the historic buildings, which are the birthplace of TaylorMade Golf, as many of you probably know, and then, some office buildings next door as well. So we are, looking to redevelop this site into multifamily, which we'll get into the site plan in a couple minutes here as well. I should mention that the current landowner has struggled to sell off some of this. So, a redevelopment of this space here seems appropriate. Who's North Point Development? North Point Development is a real estate development company that specializes in multifamily housing with offices in Wisconsin and Illinois. My office is out of Mundelein, not too far from McHenry, which is resulted in me spending many weekends during the summer in McHenry. And we're really excited about the long-term economic growth opportunities that the city really has. A couple of the different projects that we've built, over 1,200 units throughout the past 10 years. Our company was founded by Cal Schultz and Andy Dumke, both who are long-term veterans of the multifamily space. And Andy has been in the commercial development space for over 20, 30 years, developing over $200 million of commercial real estate. Richard's also here with us from HODC, so I'll let him give some background about his company as well.
Hi, I'm Richard Koenig, Executive Director of Housing Opportunity Development Corporation. We're a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping create affordable housing throughout the suburbs. We have done 5 different projects in McHenry County. Over the past several years, we recently completed a development in Cary and have been working extensively with Home of the Sparrow to create more affordable units for them, but also actually currently own property in McHenry that we've owned that was previously worked with Pioneer Center. So property over by the library over on Kane, it's a 44-unit project that HODC currently owns and manages. So we have a footprint in McHenry, and we're really excited about our partnership with the village and really interested in trying to be able to expand and create more affordable homes. So our mission is to really try and serve those who need to be able to live in town, who work in town, who need a place to live that's not available on the market, to really create high quality affordable housing for people who otherwise wouldn't have that great opportunity. So we're really excited to partner with North Point and help be able to grow and create new options here in town. Thank you.
So we wanted to bring in HODC not only because of the strength of their portfolio, but they're also bringing to this deal some very local knowledge of what the market needs, what the market prefers, and some strong, management experience. They actually have, that Tower View development right down the street off of West Crystal Lake Road. And, have really strong experience working with the city. And we're really excited about this opportunity as well. So why West Crystal Lake Road and North Mill Street? Like I said, there is a really good redevelopment opportunity here of underutilized spaces, space that the seller, was struggling to dispose of. And the city, saw some catalytic impacts of long-term. So we've got a lot of, strong linkages here for the development in our residents, which is why, this has become such a strong residential area in general. But then also, things are, on the up and up with the installation of the splash pad at the local park and some other development going on in the area as well. Some very specific, careful analysis goes into our site selection process. And in McHenry, something like I mentioned that we're really proud of is working with the city to identify a site that has long-term implications on their, vision and goals for planning of the community. So the surrounding single family is on raised elevations. The city has, wanted to see the removal of some of that industrial space off Main Street, and we're really hopeful that this project can serve as a catalyst for, future development in that area, as well as, maybe an improved train schedule from the metro as well. This is, a plan that's very much in line with what your recent housing study showed. So that's how we, worked on designing the proposal as well, taking a close look at that and working in coordination with the city staff as well. So what is the proposal? I think that's, the question everyone's wondering. Let me reshare my screen here. So we're looking at doing an adaptive reuse of, the corner building here, making it into, community space with a community room, leasing on-site leasing office and fitness center, turning that beige townhome building into 4 units of townhome units, and then building a new construction, 2-story, 4 units of 3 bedrooms, right along West Crystal Lake Road there. Nice townhome style development there. So in total, this is a 54 unit development with 46 units contained in the main building here, and then 2 buildings of 4 units as well. We, in meeting with Sue Miller, she had mentioned, the need for more garages and developments like this in the community. So that's something that we emphasized on and including in this proposal as well. We'll also have, community garden, play area. And right now we're at 110 parking stalls. We'll talk about that in a little bit. The site's definitely overparked. It's at about 2 to 1 parking ratio, but we still feel that the site's potentially overparked based off of what our past projects have shown us. So that's kind of the proposal there. Happy to share with anyone a copy of the presentation as well. Some elevations that we've put together, this being the main building, then this one being the new construction 4 unit along West Crystal Lake Road. Some really nice architecture there. This is kind of a general rendering of what we're looking at based off of another project. This is not the exact color scheme or anything like that, but wanted to give you all an idea of what we're talking about here and what we're looking at doing with sidewalks in the front, really nice landscaping. And then, of course, with the historic preservation of those 2 corner buildings, we've won plenty of awards for our work in historic preservation. It's our favorite type of projects to take on. This is the Woolen Mills Loft, and this is the Mercantile Lofts. Mercantile having a mix of office with residential, and then Woolen Mills being a straight residential development. So like I said, looking at, doing an adaptive reuse of these buildings here. Stressing, how nice this will really be for the community and the city at large. A nice community room will be, installed in that corner building, and then, nice unit finishes, LVP flooring, carpeting, quartz countertops, really a nice development for our residents, something they'll be excited to live in. Preliminary landscaping plan, looking at, what we're looking to do with the green space around the property here. This is very high level renderings of what we're proposing. We understand that the city has, very strict requirements around, the removal of trees and the need to replace those if we do remove any, and, our proposal will fall in line with all of that as well. This is a general recap of most of what we just talked about here, 110 parking stalls, 54 units. The building features will be really nice and high end. Local labor through McShane Construction, professionally managed property, very much medium density with 54 units on 3.5 acres there. So one area that applies to both of the proposals you'll be hearing tonight that I really want to touch on here is the financing source for the proposal. So this is something really important to understand, something that's very commonly misunderstood. So this is going to be a transaction where we apply for housing tax credits from the Illinois Housing Development Authority, and the timing for that is in February. It's a very competitive resource, but I want to make it absolutely clear, and I think the rent and income schedules are on the next slide here, that this is not public housing. This is workforce housing. It's housing that's priced affordably to the local workforce. The tenants receive no rent subsidy, have to pass background checks, must keep a stable income, and in general, be good tenants in order to live in this property here. That's why we spend so much money, making it a nice development. We want to attract, quality tenants, but these are, some requirements that they have to live in our property. So these tax credits that we'll hopefully get awarded it's not cash. We have to sell it to an investor. And once sold, it'll pay for a significant portion of the development. As part of the receipt of those tax credits, we have to cap the income and rents on our units. The majority of units will be capped at 50 to 80% of county median income. Once again, that's on the next slide. I'll let you guys take a look at that for a minute. It allows tenants to keep most of their income, more of their income to create, more financial stability, and therefore, spend more of those dollars that they earn in the community. We are long-term owners, not only long-term owners, but we view this project as a unique one because we're very much committed to doing work in McHenry, and we want to do more work in McHenry. So we see this as our first project of hopefully several, be long-term owners, long-term investors in the city. We do make financial guarantees that the property will get built, leased up, remain occupied, and maintain good physical condition. So we have, actual financial guarantees that we have to make to our investor that this property and this development will be successful. So looking at some of those income and rent limits, the ones that are bolded are the vast majority of the units. I'd say, 80 to 90% of the units will fall in this area here, with, a lot of it being 60% or 80% county median income units. So these are, the income caps and then the rent caps here. So you see that it's, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year. That's pricing for your local workforce. The rents here will be way higher than the neighboring multifamily development, which our understanding is Section 8. This is not Section 8 development. Residents have to have a stable income. It has to, they have to be good residents to live in the property here. And then a recap of the development timeline and what the timing for this development would look like here. So with construction, if awarded those tax credits in May of next year, would be starting late 2022, early 2023. If you want a copy of the presentation, reach out to us. But at this point, I want to open it up for questions. And I'm going to share the site plan here before we start taking questions as well.
All right. Thank you, Jake.
Yep.
Let me try to get a different view here so you can see everyone. Yeah, you might have to get off the screen just because I can't see everybody if they're
okay.
Or you can just ask them, just unmute themselves. That's fine. Let's just keep it up.
How would you prefer to do it?
Yep, keep it on. Go ahead.
Cool.
Any council members that have any questions or comments, go ahead and unmute yourself, but please be respectful of others as they're talking. Anyone have any questions, comments?
Hey, Mayor, it's Ryan. Harding.
Ryan, go ahead.
Hey, just a couple of things. I think it's a nice shot in the arm for that part of downtown to revitalize. I think it's a good idea. A couple of things I'd like to know is, I think I'd like to see more green space. So you got a play area over there in the corner, which I feel is not big enough. I don't know what you would have to do to make more green area, like a courtyard or something, because you know you're going to have kids, and you got a bike path right there also. But for me, I like to see more green. I like to see a courtyard or something for kids, because that's a busy road for them to cross and get to Fort McHenry. But sometimes parents don't want to do that. But that's one thing. And then the other thing is, do you plan on having fire sprinklers in these units?
Yep. So starting with the first question there, that's something we've thought long and hard about. That's one of the first things that we were told when we came to sit down with the city to discuss this proposal. So right now, our parking is, we have about 110 parking stalls, which you can see, is about 2-to-1 parking ratio. Based off of our other developments, we're calculating that we need about 75 parking stalls. So this might be an area that we could work through with the city. We would have to get rid of some parking in order to accommodate more green space. But when we first looked at this site, what we really wanted to do is take that area that's south of the community garden and make it more green space, provide some more green space there for the bike trail, for the residents here, just expand this area, which flows pretty nicely with the adjoining, green space that's there already. But that's something we'd have to explore a bit more at the city.
Okay, what about fire sprinklers?
Fire sprinklers, I believe so. I believe that would be required by code.
It would be.
Ryan, that would be required, yes.
Okay.
Not necessarily in the townhouse, but definitely in the multifamily in the apartments, yes.
So are the townhouses going to be sold, or is that going to be rented out?
Nope, that'll also be rental. So we have, 2 townhome buildings here, that historic one, and then the new construction one, but they'll both be rentals as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Ryan.
Mayor Jen Sue Miller.
Thank you, Sue. Go ahead.
So Jake, thank you very much for your presentation. Obviously, I've seen this now. This is my 3rd time. We met before you presented to residents. I was on your town hall with the residents, and subsequently have spoken with several of the residents that you met with, because this is obviously at the bottom of the hill where I live, and all those residents are my neighbors.
Right.
So just some feedback that they've had, not unlike feedback that I've personally given you. Not a lot of negative feedback to the buildings. Well, I shouldn't say that. There are a couple residents that have absolutely just said, no way, don't like it, don't want it, which of course we always know that there are going to be individuals that just don't want change.
Right.
They don't know what they want, but they just don't want anything. So I respect that, and I'm sharing that because they've asked me to. But more than that, most of the residents that I've talked with have said, we're not so opposed to multifamily because we like what we saw. We're most concerned about the traffic, because Crestwood is always used, and right now is used as the cut through to get away from Crystal Lake Road and 120 to cut through our subdivision to get up to Lillian. And the greatest concern that our residents have in Cooney Heights is that regardless of how many units you have and how many people you have, those cars will find Crestwood, and they will find Logan, and they will find Sue, and they're going to find their way up. So almost every resident that I talked to subsequent to your September 22nd meeting said, can't you make them not come on Mill Street? And I'm like, not really, but I'll bring that to the meeting just to continue the traffic conversation. I saw that you did open up to Main Street from that parking lot over there, which I was grateful. Thank you for doing that.
Yep.
But that's just only 10 spaces with the other 100 spaces dumping out to Mill Street.
Right.
So that still is one of the residents' concerns, and I think there are a couple residents on here tonight, but for those that are not here, that was really their greatest concern. They weren't over the moon about numbers. They weren't overly concerned about construction. You were very poignant with them about the elevation and
Yep.
how they're uphill and
Yep.
your building's downhill. They
Yep.
liked that.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of concern about, how you're changing the hill, because you aren't.
Right.
Their number one concern was number of cars dumping out onto Mill Street and traffic control.
Sure.
So if you're gonna have resistance from residents, that's what they're gonna be upset about, and we knew that from the get-go.
Yep.
So that was really the only feedback that I had from my residents, and I told you from day one, we have old residents that live there. They've lived there for a long time, and they're just vocal about what they know, and they know they
Right.
don't like cars whipping up Crestwood at 40 miles an hour and hitting the top of the hill, and they just think that those 75 cars are going to do that exact same thing. So
Yep.
there you go.
So I really appreciate that. Traffic is an important consideration in any development proposal, and understanding how it'll impact the neighbors is really important as well. Like you said, we did move that exit onto Main Street, which we thought was important. The second iteration, I believe the one that we shared with the neighbors, we've gone through a couple at this point, trying to think through this traffic consideration, had two curb cuts at the southern portion of the site here. So we removed one of those in an attempt to, at least mitigate to some extent the additional traffic. And then I'll also add, and I think this is important to consider as well, that, right now these are warehouses that aren't selling, that, the city has, you all have expressed that, the long-term interest in this site is not to keep these to be as industrial uses. At some point, something is going to get developed here. And, if it's not this, it's possible that traffic's even higher on a commercial use or something like that. Like I was kind of referring to a bit earlier, our projections for this project, we have 110 parking stalls in there right now. I believe it was 75 units based off of our other projects that we actually think we need. And if you look at, traffic peak hours, it's not that many cars at the end of the day. The 110 car number sounds intimidating, but once you spread that out to peak hours and other hours of the day, I think it's surprising what traffic looks like.
Yeah, one of the residents, Jake, had suggested, and I didn't think it was a bad idea, moving the building farther southeast and putting more parking on the northeast, and using, so they're coming out closer to Crystal Lake Road, making it not as easy to come back to Crestwood.
Yep.
And I didn't think that was bad as something for consideration.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway.
No, that's something we'll definitely take a look at.
Alderman McClatchy, go on.
Yeah, I agree with.
My internet connection is unstable.
Yes. I agree with Ryan. I think it's a good concept for that area. It needs a little bump in the chest. I got a question. The actual mill is a very historical piece of McHenry's history, and I know you focused on that, but can you kind of get a little bit more detail to how that's going to turn out?
Yep. Okay. So let me jump back to the presentation here. I think that's something neighbors were also excited about, the preservation of those buildings. So something definitely to highlight here. So we have these two buildings. And speaking with the city, speaking with the current landowner, these are the two that we identified as the historic ones. And this building here, the beige building, we're planning, it's beautiful inside. I don't know how many people on this call have been in there, but it's in really good condition. And so is this, the corner building. So we'd like to make this 4 townhome style units, make them nice, units here with nice finishes like the rest of the development. And then in this corner building, make it the community room, make it a fitness room with a leasing office, and a community room inside there as well. And then the new construction will be further down West Crystal Lake Road.
So you're not going to touch anything with the outside, maybe fix it up, put a.
No, we might. We haven't gotten that far on the details of the plan yet, but I think that's not a bad thing to consider as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments by council? Alderman Santee, go ahead.
Jake, I appreciate your time that you gave us prior when I sat through the presentation. When we talk about parking spaces and garage spaces, is that total of both areas 110?
Yep. So 54 units total. There'll be, in the current proposal, 86 surface spaces, 24 garage spaces.
And something that Alderman Harding brought up earlier in regards to green space, which I'm also a big fan of. If there was potential for more green space on that southeast area,
yep.
What are you eliminating then?
So we would have to eliminate, maybe 14 stalls here.
Okay. 14 stalls. All right.
Which would bring us under that 2-to-1 ratio, parking ratio.
And then the other thing is, I think you already answered, but when you said townhomes or townhouses, I was thinking to myself, is that going to be owned? But no, those are going to be rental, correct?
Yep.
Okay. I thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments by council? If so, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
I have a question, Mayor Chet. Alderman Devine.
Alderman Devine, go ahead. Thank you.
Hey, Jake, thanks for your time tonight. I just had a question about the tax credits. You mentioned that it's very competitive and they're awarded in February. Does this whole project hinge on those tax credits going through, and when you said competitive, what are we looking at about that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I want to make sure any questions around the tax credit program get answered here. So we apply for the tax credits in February. It takes the state about several months until May to make that announcement. And this project is hinging on the award of tax credits. It is a super competitive process. But it isn't uncommon to submit a project in multiple rounds if not awarded the first time. But yes, it is competitive. It's typically like oversubscribed, like 3-to-1. But this site scores when the state looks at it very, very well. McHenry as a whole is very competitive. That's why one of the big reasons we wanted to take a look at this site specifically as well. But yes, the site scores super well. The state wants to see more housing in McHenry. McHenry hasn't received a tax credit award in quite some time through, as a family deal. So it is something that will be very competitive in the program.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments by council? I see none. Alderman Glab, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to comment the fact that the state wants to see more multifamily and or just more housing in the city of McHenry. And when you say the state, what agencies are you talking about?
Yep, so the housing tax credit program is administered by the Illinois Housing Development Authority. So they kind of run the rules and regs around the allocation of those tax credits and decide where is more competitive and what sites are more competitive.
It's not what you said. You said that the state wants to see more in McHenry.
Yep, and I'm sorry, Alderman, I'm sorry if I misspoke. I'm sorry if I misspoke. It's the state's Illinois Housing Development Authority specifically.
Okay, so they're pushing for more multifamily here in McHenry.
Yep, correct.
Now, why so many 3-bedroom apartments over there versus the 1 and 2? You know, it's remarkable. We're looking at a 540 unit that's talking all 1 and 2 bedroom, which I kind of wonder about that. But here in the downtown area is usually where you're looking at your 1 and 2 bedroom for your young executives that can jump the train and down to Chicago or wherever they go, you know, to their office type jobs. And I just kind of wonder why we're looking at 3 bedrooms, so many 3-bedroom units.
Yep. So we have, I believe we have a significant amount of 3 bedrooms here, in part because of the market. The market study that we order will have to confirm that we'll be able to, lease those up and everything. And if not, we'll have to make a change there. But we wanted this to be a family development that's inclusive of all family sizes. And those 3 bedrooms worked fairly well within the townhome new construction building. So that resulted in us adding a few more 3 bedrooms as well.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions, comments? And Ross, what are we looking for here? Some type of direction? Obviously, we have another one on the table next, but
we have another one coming up. Yeah. Just, basically to give Jake and his team, what they need to move forward. If council doesn't want to see this start to move forward, we should probably let them know at this point. But if you're open to this development on this site, we let his team know that, and they can start the application process. They are planning on going before the Planning and Zoning Board on October 20th. Pending council doesn't say absolutely not tonight, but if you guys think it's a good plan and it's well thought out. I mean, obviously this is just conceptual, and in nature, it's not an approval by any means. And Jake, he knows that.
Right.
So, concerns from the council, basically, Sue, you did a great job of letting us know what the residents thought. One big thing from a city standpoint, and Cody, you can jump in on this if you want, getting that industrial, we're doing a lot with our downtowns with the streetscape program right now. And seeing the industrial down there on Mill Street, it's kind of, I want to say we want to push it out, but residential, increasing density in your downtown is huge for all of the business owners in the downtown area. And with the streetscape program that we're doing to try and improve that Main Street corridor, I think a project like this could go a long way. And that's, obviously that's my opinion as community development director, but council, you guys have the ultimate decision on this. But from a planning standpoint and from a downtown standpoint, I think this would be a good project.
Thanks, Ross. Is there any of the council members against this project?
I would say I've got reservations. Would I like to see development there? Yes. I don't know necessarily what I see over there does not thrill me at this point.
Okay. Anyone else?
I would just comment that I like what I see. I'm encouraged by the residents' comments that they were not unhappy with the plan, with the exception of traffic. And I think we can solve the traffic. I think just sliding the building, making some adjustments, if we don't go 110 parking spots, I think it could look really nice. So I encourage you to keep tweaking. I think planning and zoning will have something to say to you, Jake.
Awesome.
But I encourage you to keep moving forward.
I appreciate it.
And I have to agree too, obviously with what Ross said and Sue and others on here. I think this project is a good project, especially in our downtown. We've always looked at this piece of property with staff of what we're going to do with it, with the Althoffs owning the property, and we met with them. I think this is a good use, so I appreciate you bringing it forward, and I look forward to seeing the next steps.
Appreciate the time, everyone.
Yes.
Good luck, Jake.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jake.
Thank you.
All right, next discussion item on the table here, 7B, is 914 Front Street, conceptual multifamily redevelopment presentation brought by Commonwealth. Ross, go ahead and present this
Sure,
one.
thanks. So this is kind of similar financing. Another conceptual multifamily redevelopment. This is Commonwealth Development. They're proposing to develop the former roller rink site. It involves the construction of a 50-unit, 3-story apartment building. Developers presenting their conceptual plan tonight, looking for feedback on this site. So Tyler.
Thanks for the introduction there, Ross. Let me quick share my screen here with you guys. Can you guys confirm that you can see this?
Nope.
Not yet.
Yeah.
There it is.
Good. Okay, thank you. As Ross said it, I'm Tyler Sheeran with Commonwealth Development. Very similar to what Jake said, just a conceptual presentation here to kind of gain your guys' support with the deal while still having the door open to kind of tailor this to meet any needs that you guys would like to see that don't currently see in the plan. Let's go to the next slide here. So looking at Commonwealth Development of who we are as a whole, we were established in 2001 by our founder, Louis Lang, who retired from the Marine Corps to enter the workforce to realize that apartments just simply are no longer affordable. This was 20 years ago and still holds true today. And over the 20-year span, he has since partnered with 2 other individuals for a combined 70 years of tax credit experience. Looking at Commonwealth as a whole to date, we see that our development headquarters are in Madison, Wisconsin, with additional offices in Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, Kentucky, Texas, Oregon, Georgia, Alabama, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Looking at some of the history that our partners have been able to have over the last 20 years, is we see that they've been able to create a development portfolio consisting of 110 housing projects with over 7,000 units across 18 states today. And in 2020, we were able to see 2 pretty key-worthy awards. The first one being named the 2020 Best Affordable Housing Developer in the United States by Build Magazine, which is a real estate property award based on quantity, quality, and management. In addition, we were named the 12th largest affordable housing developer in the country by Affordable Housing Magazine in 2020. So I know Jake kind of just walked you guys through the tax credit program, but just kind of looking at it in a nutshell, we see that it's considered IRS Section 42, which was created in 1986 by President Reagan, designed to encourage public and private partnerships. And in turn, it promotes community revitalization at little to no cost to the municipality, while increasing the available workforce housing to continue community growth. Again, this is not to be mistaken for Section 8, which is voucher rent, as all tenants are required to demonstrate a proof of income. And it will set to serve individuals making at or below 60% of the area median income. So looking at why this is applicable for McHenry and why we see a great fit as an out-of-state developer is 2 things: the overall demand and the jobs. Looking at the demand in the recently conducted housing study, we see an aging housing stock of the average unit constructed in 1983. And even with some of the older units, we see a vacancy of less than 1%, which is very strong demand that we typically don't see. And slated for 320 units by 2025 to keep up with current demand. And looking at current jobs that are available for listings that would meet the income band that these units are restricted to include, but are not limited to, dental receptionists, general laborers, caregivers, culinary team members, and security officers. So as we can see, there's current jobs available in the city of McHenry and simply just no place for individuals to live. Looking at what we would propose for the site specific on 914 Front Street here, we would have one 3-story mid-rise style construction building with 16 one-bedroom units, 9 2-bedroom units, and 25 3-bedroom units, with overall amenities for all tenants, including a clubhouse with a leasing office, a community room, exercise facility, business center, kitchenette, and bike racks. Looking at the unit specifically, tenants will receive in-unit washer and dryer, Energy Star appliances, LVT flooring, a balcony or patio, along with all units being built to Enterprise Plus Green standards. And looking at why we really like the site at 914 Front Street, a little background knowledge. We reached out to Cody and Ross and their staff just after the new year and proposed the site for 3320 Bull Valley Road. And just working with Cody and his staff, it wasn't a good fit just given the proposed density. And so we were able to go back to the drawing board and look at some of the available sites within the city that that are great for redevelopment. And we really landed on this one, just given the location amenities. The main one being the adjacent Center Street Park. Understood that the proposed development does not have a lot of green space, and that's simply because we're adjacent to a park. In addition, there's great public transit available in close proximity, along with a lot of other amenities within a half mile, including but not limited to a grocery store, a restaurant, pharmacy, place of worship, and a bank. Looking at the proposal specifically for this site here, you will see the one 3-story apartment building that is proposed with 100 parking stalls. And then looking at a conceptual rendering here that, again, as stated, is subject to change based on feedback received from you guys along with the Planning and Zoning Committee. But as you'll see here, a vast majority of brick along with hardy boards. And as stated, there's those balconies or patios for the individuals on the first floor, along with some green space in the front and a nice little community patio that would come out of the community room. And just looking at the overall economic impact of this deal specifically and how it would benefit the city of McHenry is the ability to house 50 families without a rent burden. In addition, to provide future corporate expansion. As stated, there's a lot of jobs available and simply just nowhere for anyone to live. So we believe with new tenants coming in, it allows for companies to promote continued growth. In addition, it provides hundreds of jobs throughout the construction period to the city, county, and state. And in addition to some long-term positions for the on-site property managers, maintenance staff, local landscaping crews, maintenance crews, and snow removal crews. And in addition, it'll increase the annual tax base significantly. Just some closing remarks on Commonwealth and our proposal as a whole. With working with us, you're getting a very experienced staff, as stated, 70+ years combined with 7,000 units across the country. You're guaranteed the highest quality of housing and the overall ability to work directly with the city of McHenry and Commonwealth Development to bring a project to fruition that you guys are proud to call your own. Again, I'm Tyler Sheeran, and thank you guys for your time. At this, I would like to open up for any questions, comments, or concerns that you guys have.
Thank you. Alderman McClatchy, go ahead.
Yeah, I've got a couple things. First time I looked at the concept, it's kind of L-shaped, and you have the biggest portion on 31. Why wouldn't you turn that L towards the back?
Just design trends kind of indicate that the front load is kind of where it should be. Otherwise, you're looking at a parking lot full of cars where we believe the building is aesthetically pleasing, and that's what people driving by would like to see, opposed to just a parking lot.
Okay. Just last question. Who's going to clean up the property that's there now? Do you own it, or you plan on buying it?
So we do not currently own it. We have an option to purchase it. And the current purchase agreement states that the current seller is responsible for cleaning that up.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other council members have any questions, comments? So please unmute yourself. I can't see.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Alderman Sandy.
Mayor Jett, yeah, Alderman Santee. Real quick, thank you very much for the presentation. I guess, make sure I understand, could be a repeat from Alderman McClatchy, but if you were to turn that L where the bottom of it is actually on the south end. Yeah, if you couldn't turn it like just a half a turn where that backs the bottom of the L is facing that would be facing north, correct? You're saying that aesthetically there's just, would you be showing off too much parking and not the building itself?
Correct. Yeah, the vision here from our architects was kind of to front load it there. So again, you're not looking at the cars, and you'll see that front community patio there that gets to face the 31.
Okay. All right. And possibly, I mean, I'll ask the proposed developers, but also this might go to staff. Is there a concern in regards to, we've got, what's the number of 3-bedroom apartments again?
We're proposing 25.
Okay, 25. So, potentially children, young children, can they safely, once they get into school age, they'd probably be, I think they're within a mile, they'd be walking towards Duker and Edgebrook and even towards Landmark. Is there suitable sidewalks on the east side to get to those schools safely if they're going through those neighborhoods?
That I cannot fully attest to, but
it's probably more of a staff question. I'm sorry, but I don't think there's anything in front of the Ed's rental building, correct? And going that way, and then heading, down Kane to the schools.
Alderman Sandy, the Route 31 expansion project, which, we're looking at within the next 5 years here.
Okay.
Yes, there will be full functioning. And Troy, I don't remember if there's a multi-use path on the east side of 31 for that project, or is that just sidewalk? But
Right now, their preferred alternative includes the multi-use path on, I believe you're right, I believe the east side.
Currently, there is sidewalk from that southbound though.
Yeah, getting to John Street. Yeah,
I think if I can, I used to run that. I don't think there's a sidewalk in front of 3 Queens or the rental place. You have to run through or walk through the parking lots.
Gotcha.
That's correct. I run it all the time, so.
All right.
That's how I know.
Let's see, what was the other? Well, that's my only questions right now. I might have something in a few minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, actually, there is sidewalk.
Yeah.
There is sidewalk from this site all the way south to, what would it be? Kane?
Kane.
Yeah, Kane. There is sidewalk on the east side.
All right. Thank you, Ross.
Guess I ignored it then.
Any other council members? Alderman Devine?
Mayor Alderman Harding.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just real quick, probably for staff in the back there. Is there a fence? Can you reach that park from that property, or do you got to hop that fence? I just want to know if anyone knows how that goes. That might be a tough question.
I do not know if the city has a fence in that park. I'm not sure if there is a fence back there. It's probably the roller rinks fence, and would be something that, that we would have to work through.
Mr. Hobson, are you on? Bill?
There is a pretty heavy tree line there.
Right, I just want to make sure that that park is going to be accessible.
I think something that we could do there is, make a pedestrian gate, because it is, we would want some sort of fencing probably back there, and then we do some sort of pedestrian gate into the park.
Okay.
Yeah, not to cut you off there, Ross, but I think that's something we would definitely try to work with you guys on, as we think this is a great amenity for future tenants.
For clarification, there is a fence. I'm not sure. I climbed it a few times in my life. But the police would be in support of some kind of a gate there just for emergency access from the east side of the property and not just off of Front Street.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
I have another question, Mayor Jett.
Sure, go ahead.
It's in clarification from staff or developer in regards to in this drawing, it shows that street just to the north side of the buildings. And what has been determined with staff on that in regards to, is a through street?
I think we all agreed that we didn't want a through street to center. We have enough with all of the other roads to Center Street. That is actually a right of way right now that the city would probably be looking at vacating. And they would have to provide us. We do have a sanitary main that runs through there, so we would have to be provided with an easement for that. But I think, Cody, our discussions, and even with Troy, I think we talked about this, and we would not be requesting the through street. Plus, it would go right through the park. We don't want to do that.
Okay. And this is the first, is this your first project in the state of Illinois?
Yes, sir. But with that, we've hired a consultant who was with the state agency for over 10 years and now has been a consultant for the last 25 years and personally overseen the development of 2,500 units through this Illinois state agency.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Alderman Glab, go ahead.
Thank you. Ross, what they're showing right here is whether there's a park next to it or not, are they with open space to ordinance?
As far as supplying green space?
Yes.
We haven't necessarily gotten that far yet. Cody, can you chime in on that? You've looked at this plan more than I have.
I haven't really looked very deeply. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So we haven't really looked very deeply into, I guess, reviewing the landscaping plans. We've just received them, I think, last
Friday.
week. It was
Friday.
Friday, Tyler, was that correct?
Yep.
I think that's when we got them. So, I'll just point out just in general, and I think another thing that, City Council would like to be aware of, I believe, Tyler, correct me if I'm wrong, this grant opportunity has more or less, you have to demonstrate you can hold on to a property for more than 20 years. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's part of the land use restriction agreement that we would enter into with the state agency. Yes, that is correct.
So I think that's one of the other benefits of that program that I just kind of wanted to point out to City Council, but also another thing is that both sites are within a 1/4 mile distance of the train station. So this would classify as a transit oriented development because it's within like a 5-minute walk of the train station. Other than that, both sites, they're adjacent to a lot of different amenities in the city of McHenry. We have the library.
Thank you, Cody. But you know what? I had questions for Ross.
Sure.
To answer that one question now, if I could continue, I would appreciate it.
Hey, Alderman Glab, just so you know, I reached out to Cody to answer your question.
I understand. I understand that, but he's going on with other things and everything else. But this is supposed to be a discussion of the council. Okay.
Okay.
To add on all this extra stuff at the end, you had plenty of time to set up the proposal. Do we have the green space according to what our ordinance would allow, I guess, was one of the big questions. But then the other question I've got is what about detention? What kind of requirements are there going to be for detention on this property?
So we haven't gotten to the engineering portion of it yet, but this property is probably 90% impervious already. And given that fact, as long as they meet that 90% or what currently is impervious, they're not required to have detention.
That parking lot was not paved.
A gravel lot is considered impervious.
Okay, but it does, is not solid, so therefore it does absorb some of the water. And again, my concern more than anything else is how much more water would we take in? And like you said, engineering has something to do with it. Because this goes down to the Ann Street drainage, does it not? I believe.
I don't know if it does or not.
So I would imagine it would head down that way.
Yeah, I'd have to look at. We haven't gotten that far yet, Alderman Glad. This is purely conceptual. I mean, if you're looking at this plan and you'd like to see more green space, I mean, that's the kind of stuff we're looking to give to the developer right now.
Right.
You know, but as far as, you know, engineering and stuff like that all that has to obviously be in accordance with the stormwater management ordinance. And we'll make sure of that like any other project.
Right. But again, the green space, I think it needs to be held to the standards that the city has, regardless of whether there's a park there or not. I mean, number one, the park's going to be fenced off. I want those buildings up closer to a fence or anything else. And I'd like to see a little bit more green space, definitely out in front. You know, you don't want the buildings right up against the street.
Alderman, just to cut in here, if you do look on the site plan, I mean, essentially from where the L-shaped building is up until the front street there, it will be green space. And there's a little lighter gray patio that you would see on the front there. That's a slab of concrete just for a patio, but the remainder of that is green space. I can shoot over here to the rendering. This was all green space in here as well.
That'll be all green space. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, comments by council? Alderman Devine, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Tyler, for your time. To be perfectly honest with you, I'm not really comfortable with the location itself, being surrounded by well, you have the park to the east, but everywhere else is C5 commercial, highway commercial. I just don't think it's the best spot for it. I don't know if I, could support it. I just don't like where it's located, to be honest with you.
Understood. I mean, and quite frankly, I think that was one of the benefits that we saw of this site. I think there was a great infill opportunity here, just given the current blighted building. And while there is commercial uses all around there, it promotes for great housing simply because a lot of amenities are within a half a mile.
Okay, thanks.
All right, any others? Alderman Glenn?
Yeah, just another comment. And I know this picture that you've got up here, the domain or whatever, is that supposed to be an artist rendition of what you're looking at? Of what you're planning on building?
Yes, sir. It's a conceptual rendering, but subject to change based on feedback received here and at Planning and Zoning Commission.
I think the look, the aesthetic look right off the bat, the flat look just doesn't make it with me. There's no depth to the building other than the patios. It just looks like a prefab warehouse that went up, is really to some extent. And I'm not trying to insult anybody's designs, but it just doesn't work for me as far as that elevation looking the way it does.
If you see here within the columns, there is various dimensions. It's a little bit hard to grasp here on the conceptual rendering, but I have supplied the elevations to Cody and Ross, and I would gladly be able to share those with you if you'd like them, where you can see that there is quite a bit of dimension in the site there, and it's not just a single facade per se.
Hey, Tyler, can you throw those up?
Yes.
You have them. God, I might be able to get them.
We got a nice blow up of you, Ross.
Just a second here, guys. My apologies. So as you can see, can you guys see this here?
Mhm.
So as you can see here, you'll have the brick tower here and then a dimension switch here to the hardy paneling, then a switch to the hardy siding, switch to the paneling. And each time this switches along with right here and these doors and windows, I mean, there's going to be quite a bit of depth variation.
Anyone have questions, comments regarding the elevation?
Have we built these type before? This type of rendition? Do we actually, rather than artists' drawings, do we have pictures that you could supply the council possibly with the look?
Yeah, absolutely. I can share that. I don't have that ready available at this moment, but I can, yes.
No, I understand that, but you understand what I'm saying? You know, you look at our artists' renditions versus actual photos. There's a big difference, and it can make a world of a difference as far as how.
Andy, if you go in your packet and you look at auxiliary court,
Yeah, that's
it
big style
looks
building.
like, if you look at the packet and you look at their picture of auxiliary court, it appears it'll look much like auxiliary court.
$190, roughly $190.
194.
194. Am I correct on that?
Yes, absolutely.
With the staggered setback balconies and the different, shading on the inside with the stone on the bottom. Do you see that, Andy?
Mhm.
That's a real picture, not a rendering.
Yep, and as you can see there, council member, that it's definitely not just a flat surface building. It's just a little bit hard to represent that sometimes on these conceptual renderings.
If I may, Mayor, yeah, when I look at that page, it's page 194. Tyler, I do see, where there's, I don't know if you define them as awnings, but I mean, there's just a little bit more three-dimensional look in the picture. I understand it's a rendering comparing to a picture, but what you're showing to us is just, I mean, I get it. It's flat. And I know when you look at a different angle, I would just, I don't know if it is actually awnings that you have on some of these windows, especially that top picture on page 197. Where just, I don't know, it's just a more appealing look. And one of the concerns I do have when you had that map, the drawing, looking down, from space, is that it's definitely it's almost, I'd say it's almost shoehorned in there, and I just don't know, how much adjustments you may have potentially as a developer in regards to what you could go with numbers and what you could work with in regards to possibly building size, making possibly some minor adjustments. It does look very small in regards to having green space around it. I get it, there's a park there, but also what Alderman Devine brought up is that you've got commercial all around you, and it's snug. I'll leave it at that.
Any other questions, comments?
Hey, Tyler, it's Ross. I actually have a question for you, and I should have asked this to Jake as well, but you both, obviously, we have two of these developments with the same funding source. What are the chances that each of these projects were to get funded in the city of McHenry? Is there something that the state, are there guidelines on how they give this funding out?
So, I mean, it's all based on a scoring matrix that the agency releases. And as Jake alluded to, the area of McHenry scores very well. As the current scoring sits and the guidelines, there's no limitation on the amount of deals a single municipality can submit. That said, it is a competitive source, but we feel very strong in our ability to obtain the funding, just given the score that we're projecting we're going to garner. And I think the presence of another developer in the same space just kind of reiterates the fact of how well this area is. And for that reason, we're confident in our ability, and I'm sure Jake and their team is as well.
Thanks. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so once again, we want direction by council. Is there anyone that's not supportive of this moving forward?
I am. Yes. I just don't like the location with around the highway commercial.
Sure. Is there any others? Alderman Gleb?
I just want to say I've got reservations, but I kind of agree with what Alderman Devine's saying. However, I just don't know if there's other uses that could possibly be put in here, and that's my only other reservation. I don't know. At this point in time, I would say I'm just kind of on the fence post. And I don't mean between the apartments and the park, but I'm there on the fence on it. I don't know which way I'd want to go with that, to be honest with you. I'm not crazy about the architecture. It just doesn't hit me. And three-story building up there with everything else that's there. I think of the bank. When the bank went out, there it is all by itself, sticking way out there, and it had for years. And I kind of wonder if this would wind up to be the same way.
Any others?
I'm not saying I would like to see them move forward, but I'm very concerned about just a little bit of a better look with the building, potentially where it may be, it seems like a tight fit to me. And if I ask myself the question, what could be placed in there? I don't think there are many options. Potentially, like, I'll just bring it up, but you can't have office space, but you drive a quarter mile away and there's two buildings that one's for sale, the total building, and the other one has maybe, 25% that's leased. So, I mean, that would, that wouldn't survive. So, I guess just some tweaking and things. I'm still open to it, but I definitely have some concerns, and I will, I'll pass those on even the more in-depth through staff, to Tyler. So, we can have a conversation if we need to later. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Vic.
Tyler, could we have you drop your screen so we can see everybody at one time?
Yep. My apologies there.
No,
Sean.
that's all right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Mayor John.
Sorry. Any others? Oh, let me Strack, go ahead.
Not opposed to the project at all. Actually, the aesthetics of the building in that particular area, for me, I actually kind of like because of what is around it. And really, until council and city staff come up with what the future of the city is going to look like as a whole, that whole corridor could change in a short amount of time. So, I still think you have to look at that area pretty openly. Yes, it's C5 commercial today, but that doesn't mean it's going to continue to be that way times are changing in a hurry, and we've got to be open enough to figure out what the rest of that's going to look like in the future. So I'm fully supportive of it.
Thank you.
Or any others? Or any input? I think that's it. All right, perfect. All right, I think you guys got a kind of an idea where everyone stands. Me personally, I'll just give I don't vote, so it doesn't, if maybe you don't care what I think as a voting member of the council, but I think, with the land use being commercial, considering that this is going to be a 4-lane highway down the road, I would like to see a different use in this property, me personally. I think there's a lot of uses we can use at this property. But that's just my personal opinion. It just became available here in the last few months, and we've had other people look at it. But obviously it's the first one coming forward, but that's just my personal opinion. But yeah, I appreciate all the input by council, and we can go ahead and wait for the next motion by Tyler and his team to come back to planning and zoning and so forth, just like the other company as well.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Thank you guys. Appreciate it on that.
Thank you.
All right. No executive session. Staff reports were sent out on October 4th, so you should have all those. I'll give a quick report regarding Rise Up concert.
Ross.
Hey, Mayor, we do have executive session.
We talked to Derek. I have a kid in the hospital right now that's not doing so well, so we're gonna try to.
Okay.
Unless you guys want to run that part, Derek.
Now we can go. We're good.
Okay, we'll handle it, Ross. We already talked about it. All right, and then report regarding Rise Up. We raised over $200,000. That'll fully fund the splash pad. I want to thank the council members that were out there, staff members that were out there helping. It was a great event, no major issues. We plan on moving forward with another event in 2022. And September 9th and 10th is the dates as of right now. And we're working on a project to be funded in the city of McHenry, and we'll get an email out to all of the council members letting you know what our thoughts were on the funds for 2022. Other than that, I'll have a full report that will be on the website once the accountant is completed, so that way it's transparent on everything that was donated and everything else, so that way everyone doesn't think that I'm stealing money. So other than that, I have nothing else. City council comments? Go ahead, Alderman Glenn.
Yeah, Mayor, if you're going to do another one in 2022, then maybe you want to direct as far as to direct that money for the expansion of the parking lot, because we really do need to have a much larger parking lot out there. I wouldn't have a problem with the splash pad if we had the parking. We need 3 times the parking that we have there. So,
yeah, Alderman Glad, just so you're aware, and I probably should have stated this, I reached out to McHenry Excavating. He is going to handle all the excavation for the new parking lot at no charge. And I have a paving company that is looking to donate the entire paving of the parking lot as well. So once again, we're using our relationships and partnerships with other companies in the area. And I think we'll get that completely funded along with the splash pad at no additional cost to the city.
super. If we get the parking, that'd be great.
I need it anyway, to be honest with you.
Well, yeah, even without the splash park, absolutely. Again, the safety of the kids more than anything else is what I'm looking at over there. The other thing is just again, I talk about traffic, and it seems like we're always talking about planning out the city with as far as planning and zoning, you know, what we would like to see where, but I think to some extent we really need to start looking at, and I don't mean something that we're going to do in the next 3 to 5 years, but we do need to start planning out our roads better as far as what we're looking at as far as expansions in the future. Because let's face it, we're having a problem right now as far as just doing our residential streets. What's going to happen when we have to, if we ever have to widen some of our other roads? I mean, our major roads. Crystal Lake Road is all ours to do. That could be an astronomical amount, I'm sure. Troy, am I not right?
We can go into greater detail on Crystal Lake Road at some point, but it does have wider right of ways. It was resurfaced through SDP, I believe, in 2014. So we've got some service life left on those improvements. But I do believe at a certain point, the ADTs will hit a point that will warrant widening. I don't think we're there yet. But yeah, it's possible. And I think we have a lot of the right of way already, actually.
That's good. But we're talking a huge cost, I'm sure. You know, and it would probably be enough dollars there that we're talking about to fund four years of road projects. If you're talking all the way from Bull Valley down up to 120, correct?
Yep. Widening not cheap. New pavement, new storm sewer systems are not cheap. So you're right.
But then again, we may be more grant monies with a major project like that. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out. Another thing, if we have any discussions with the county or whoever it is that's pushing the widening of 31, maybe they look at that bypass with the bridge going over the river up Chapel Hill and all that. That would sure be nice to have that done before they try to widen the area from Bull Valley up to 120. Only because of the fact that if we could take some of that pressure off of the traffic there, it would. Let's face it, when all this happens, everybody's going to be looking for alternatives, and some of our other roadways are going to wind up with hellacious impacts compared to what they've had. I mean, you look at 31 right now with the amount of traffic that just keeps building up more and more, and you're seeing it more now, probably because of the fact that more and more people are going back to work because there's a lot more traffic out there in the mornings than there used to be. So, but like I say, I just think I'd like to see a lot more input as far as to the council as far as where we are with how the roadways have to be handled. And it's just like the 540 unit department we were looking at what is that, Veterans Parkway. You know, I'm sure that those islands will probably have to come out. The thing's going to have to be widened severely in order to get traffic out of there, as well as some of the other areas. To traffic light itself is not going to be the salvation for that all of that. So that's all I got. Thank you, Troy.
Thank you. Any other city council comments? Alderman McClatchy, go ahead.
I would make a motion to adjourn, but I hope your kid is good and Godspeed.
Thank you. Alderman Santi for a second.
Second the motion.
All right. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman McClatchy,
Yes.
Alderman Santi,
Yes.
Alderman Glab,
Yes.
Alderman Harding,
Yes.
Alderman Strack,
Yes.
Alderman Devine,
Yes.
Alderman Miller.
Yes.
She left already. Yes.
All right. She said yes, I believe. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
You too. Good night.
Good night.